Okay, let's talk about your lawsuit against the CDC. Tell us about
Yes.
this. What is the lawsuit? Why are you suing the CDC? There's a lot of reasons why I'd like to sue the CDC. I'm wondering why you're doing it.
And why now? Why now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So we filed a lawsuit a few months back against the CDC to stop the default recommendations of the childhood vaccine schedule. So as it stands right now, 72 plus doses on the childhood schedule that have never been tested as administered. And so we said, you know what? If there is a time in history where we can expose and undermine something that is so nonsense, it's now with this new ACIP committee that Secretary Kennedy put in place. So what we're asking for in the lawsuit is to take every dose on the childhood schedule from a default dose, which, right now today you take your child into a doctor. They don't even have to see the doctor because it's a standing order based on age. So every 3-month-old gets the same doses. Every 6-month-old gets the same doses. And put that down to shared decision making so that it becomes the parent's choice in consultation with their chosen provider, not a default standard of care. And the beautiful thing about this lawsuit and why it gets me very excited is because the complaint is written in a way that is easy to understand, that is common sense, and that people can share with others who might not know this is happening, that the 72 doses are one of the most aggressive schedules in the world, and that it hasn't been studied across a childhood's life or vax compared to unvax cohorts. And the second thing is the Institute of Medicine has been asking the CDC to do its own studies on that very thing. And they haven't been done. So they started asking for this back in 2011, 2013, and here we are, and this still has not been done. So that's bad agency decisions.
Yeah.
Bad agency decisions can't stand. They can't stay in place if you did not consider a huge factor when making the agency decision. Then it's a bad decision. It's illegal, and we have to undo it. And so that's what we're asking for, is to put it back in the hands of the mom, take it out of the hands of quote unquote standard of care for every American child.
Yeah, bureaucrats. I mean, now that you put it that way, certainly I think many of us have had a lot of concerns about the vaccine schedule for kids. A lot of us have been voicing those concerns. But you put it in a way just now that I hadn't really thought of it. That just kind of adds ammo to the entire, this whole thing is bad. And that is, this is collective decision making. When we think about going to our doctors, we're supposed to get, consult, and they always say this for everything else, right? Well, consult your doctor, talk to your doctor. And they always say that, whenever there's any sort of I'm not giving medical advice, of course, I'm just saying generally what I think, but talk to your doctor, individual doctors. And you're supposed to go to your individual doctor because your individual doctor is supposed to give you individual recommendation based on your individual history, right? This is why we always say here, talk to your doctor first. Okay, except when it, like you just said, except for when it comes to this vaccine schedule, you don't talk to a doctor. You go into a Walgreens or something. They just start giving you for whatever the shot is. For the kids, I'm sure you just go into the doctor's office. I don't know. I feel like they gave them out at school. I'm pretty sure I got vaccines at school. I think I did. I think I lined up for the polio vaccine. I'm pretty sure we all did, or something. I think there was. I thought, isn't that where they do it? Don't they just line you all up at school and they're like, here you go, everybody. Everybody's getting the sugar cube or something.
They did it in some states with the COVID vaccine. That's for sure. I think when there is public unrest that they get those vaccine clinics going, that it makes sense to them to do them in the schools, and that every child gets it unless you opt out and unless they keep track of that child. There was that Vermont case just a couple years back where there was a vaccine clinic in the school. The mother opted out and they still gave the child the COVID shot. And so they sued and said, this isn't okay. We didn't want our child to get this shot. And they lost in court. They said it was a reasonable error.
Oh my God. Reasonable. Oh geez. Sorry we medicated your kid. But you're right. This vaccine schedule doesn't take into consideration the individual patient. It's just a collective. Nope, we don't care. You're 6 months old. This is the shot. This is what you have to get. This series of shots. Oh, here you are. You're 5.
Yeah. And there's no upper limit. With the standard of care, there's no upper limit to how many doses a child can get in a single visit. If you're 6 or 8 month old or 12-month-old is off schedule, well, they're getting 9 doses today. And there's no one that says, oh, doctor, 10 doses is too much. It's so these universal recommendations where it's every child is recommended the same schedule are unique. If you look at global policy, that we are one of the few nations that has this many universal recommendations. I mean, we truly are very different than other nations when it comes to the vaccine schedule and who gets what. And it's fascinating to look at how each of these doses landed on this childhood schedule.
It's always an interesting conversation for me when I talk to people who are very liberal and they're very, very pro-vax, right? They were very pro-lockdown, pro-vax during COVID. And these are the same people that are always saying, I'm moving to Europe. I'm sick of this. I'm moving to the UK, right? And then I always bring up, in the UK, there are no vaccine requirements for kids. They don't even go to school there's no measles vaccine required. I'm not just talking COVID. I'm talking any vaccine. Mm-hmm. They're not required. They're recommended, but they're not required to get the measles vaccine, for example, to go to school. And it always, they don't know how to react to that. It's like the most liberal countries in the world that you admire, that you want to live in, that you think are run better than the United States because you think the people there are more reasonable, actually don't have vaccine requirements for the most part.
And guess what? Their vaccine rates are still really high. Just let the people choose.
Right. Let people choose. Yeah.
The rates will fall where they might fall based on the product. I mean,
and I'd be really interested to see a society just for the sake of experiment, since they're always wanting to experiment on us. Why not? Why can't we experiment too? I would like to see a country highly developed, really good sanitation, clean running water, very clean society. And I'd like to see what happens when they don't vaccinate.
Do you think that's the Amish? Do you think that's the Amish? Because
I don't know. I don't know enough about the Amish. I mean, I've heard like the Amish don't do these, because they're also living obviously in the United States where they're getting it seems like each region of the United States also has its different levels of clean water and sanitation. So I'm not really sure, like what kind of an environment they're living in. But there's a lot of question about how effective vaccines have been when many of these vaccines were given when things were already on the decline, like measles or polio. And then the question is, well, how much did the vaccines actually contribute to the decline of these diseases, or was it actually sewage and sanitation and clean running water? Was that a bigger factor? And I think there's a lot of questions there. And of course, they don't want you to question that. You question that, you're just, you're a lunatic. How dare you assume that clean water would actually have an impact on our health?
It's exactly. And there's studies that show that the vaccines had very little to do with the decline in mortality and morbidity with infectious disease. And then you take that a step further and look at those trends against when mandates came into play. I mean, school mandates aren't that old. I mean, they're 40 years old or so, but gosh, polio, smallpox, measles deaths, all of that had completely declined before requirements to go to school.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so why do you have to sue to get this to change this? And what exactly are you suing for? What are you wanting? Are you wanting the vaccine schedule to go away completely, or what are you wanting?
So we want every dose on the childhood schedule to be recategorized until
as what?
From universal recommendation down to shared decision making. So it would make mandates go away. Because right now, you were talking about talk to your doctor. People aren't talking to their doctor about this. Or, the biggest issue is if they do talk to their doctor about it and their doctor is willing to talk about it, the doctor gets in trouble. Their licensure is on the line. And that's why our 2 co-plaintiffs, Kenneth Stoller and Paul Thomas, they both lost their medical license for giving their patients vaccine choice. And that's what this universal standard of care has done. It has censored and silenced other options. So if we win the lawsuit, then the foundation of mandates goes away, which is what we've been fighting for since the start of Stand for Health Freedom, is to say informed consent is the way of the future, that honoring a mother's instincts and intuition cannot be measured and it shouldn't be questioned. And so if we can get shared decision making in place for every dose, then we've undermined mandates. And we think that the mandate era of medicine is over. It's time to move past that. It ran its course and it didn't work very well.
Why do you have to sue? We have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. He's the MAHA guy. Why can't he just wave the magic wand and say, all right, we're no longer having the vaccine mandates in the schedule anymore? Seems simple enough. Isn't it Dr. McCary who's the head of CDC now? Who's the head of CDC?
The head of CDC, well, Susan Monarez is the one we sued, and then she exited. And I'd have to look at who's the interim head now. I'm not sure. A permanent one's been put in place. I should know that. But
right, it's acting is Jim O'Neill. It was Susan Monarez.
Yes.
But what is Dr. McCary? Isn't he something in there? Let me see. What is he?
Bhattacharya's NIH. McCary is...
Oh, he's the Food and Drug Incumbent Commissioner.
FDA.
Yeah, FDA. Okay, so he's FDA. Okay, so CDC.
Yes.
Yeah, but still, nonetheless, like we have the MAHA guy in power. What the heck? Why do you have to sue?
I mean, the CDC is under Secretary Kennedy, and
so then why didn't you need to sue? Why can't he just say, let's not? Yeah, okay, let's just tone it down.
So yes, and there's only so much that a single guy can get done in a bureaucracy that is so gridlocked with red tape and control, and so it's a way to support MAHA. It's a way to support big changes happening in a short amount of time. So while we have this window of opportunity, let's give them the playbook. Let's give them an excuse to make big changes. And if the court gets involved, then they don't have to use all of their political equity on one decision.
Yeah. But how do they decide then, because this is a lawsuit, so I'd imagine there's lawyers on the other side. Mm-hmm. Why would they even lawyer up on this one? Why wouldn't they just say, yeah, we give out, you go ahead?
That's a good, I mean, wouldn't that be a dream? Is that this just goes straight to the Department of Justice and we get a settlement that says, there's no defense here.
Right.
I mean, we'll see what happens. I think there is a chance that something really good will come of this. Putting this in front of them, escalating the issue. I mean, the time is now.
Well, how far along are you on this lawsuit then?
We have not had an answer yet because the shutdown. So when the shutdown happened, the government did not have to respond to any lawsuits.
Oh, right. So did you file right before the shutdown or something?
No, the answer was due within a few days of the shutdown. So then it was like we were almost to our 60 days and then shutdown happened. So hopefully we'll have...
Okay. So you filed 60 days before the shutdown, but then the shutdown happened right when they were supposed to respond, and they didn't respond. Have you heard from any attorneys on that side at all?
We have not.
Oh, so maybe they haven't lawyered up at all on it. I mean, maybe they're just going to be like, yeah, we agree. We'll settle.
Well, we'll keep you posted. I mean, this would be what we're asking for with transparency. When it comes to treating an individual child, what's best for their immune system, does a mother understand the path she's choosing? It would be a dream to say, let's restore the mother's decision making.
Yeah. And if that happens, I mean, if they don't really contest it and they're like, yeah, we're just going to settle out, you're right. Do more. Do more of these.
Well, that's how this lawsuit originally came about, is the attorney we're working with, Rick Jaffe, he sued on behalf of a California doctor who was refusing to carry COVID shots for her pediatric patients. And so Medicaid said, well, if you're not going to carry the COVID shot, we're going to stop sending any vaccines to you and you won't be able to care for your patients anymore. So they sued. And shortly thereafter, COVID went to shared decision-making. After, like within a few months of the lawsuit being filed, COVID went to shared decision-making. We're like, let's pull this lever for the entire schedule.
Yeah. Do you know anything? Have you talked to the attorneys on that case to find out if there was any pushback, if the government actually lawyered up?
I don't know that. I don't know.
But good to find out, like how the government attorneys responded. If they were just like, yeah, like, or if they were like, no, we're going to fight this, and then they lost in court or something. It would be kind of good to know.
Right. They did not lose in court. It became moot because of the regulation change. So because it changed to shared decision making, the case was then moot, and they withdrew it, and she could go back to doing her thing. So
I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like that.
Is it less
I
than
got
satisfying?
Yeah, it is a little bit, because if they just change the policy, it's better if the courts require them to change the policy than for them to
Mm,
just change the policy, because then they could just change it back. So I would
true.
prefer it if the courts, if they would have let it get. So that's kind of a strategy move on the government's part. I wish they wouldn't have done that. Ugh, I hate it when that things, it's just like when a lot of those COVID lawsuits, uh,
Mhm.
the COVID side, the anti, like the freedom people would win, but they would win on stupid things. And I'm like, that's not a real, I mean, yes, it's a win. I'm glad. Okay. But they won on things like, oh, well, the courts would be like, it was arbitrary and capricious. You didn't make everybody do it. So therefore, because you let like a couple of celebrities get away with it, then yeah, I guess it was arbitrary. So yep, we're going to reverse this. And it's just like, that's not, we wanted the ruling to be, this was against freedom. This
Mhm.
was a violation of your liberties. And we wanted that ruling. And instead we got a ruling of, well, it was the wrong department, OSHA. They weren't really the ones who should have been doing this. And it's like, you just open the door for a different department. It's like the government will then just figure out, okay, well, if it's not this department, then which department? Right? I mean,
Right.
then they just play that game. So yeah, I don't really like that they changed the rule. And, because they got the pressure. And maybe that'll happen in this case. I mean, yes, it would be good. It's not a bad thing, obviously, for the rule change to happen. It's just not permanent. That's what I don't like about it. It can be
So true.
reversed.
Right. And we need things on record that say government overreach isn't going to be tolerated, that we
Right.
actually value freedom in this nation. That's the experiment. The experiment is freedom. Let the people do what's best for them. It's just the experiment is not control. And we've gone too far too long allowing the experiment to become control.
Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversenShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversenShow.com. See you there.